Welcome, Blue Collar Millionaires. Glad you were able to show up. We've got a special guest here today. Most folks would think that it's just an expense, but an attorney is an investment. And we got Paul Vincent here. He is part of the Vincent Brothers. He's got a nice little social media following as well. I have seen him in the real estate space. I've seen him in the business acquisition space. So he's got plenty of experience to pull from. So we wanted to bring him to the table and let you guys pick his brain today. Paul, appreciate you showing up, man.
Oh, I'm flattered to be here. Thanks for inviting me, guys. I'm in a very white collar gig, but I've always been a blue collar guy. I've never wanted to actually do any of the work, but I'm a blue collar in spirit. I grew up in Portage County, which is in the middle of freaking nowhere. So I should be blue collar. I'm just not tough enough.
I'm sure you've helped a lot of blue collar people.
Yeah, definitely.
We tend to know
that's my contribution.
Dangerous.
Yeah, that's my contribution.
So. Yeah. So tell us what you got going on with your firm, what that looks like, and where your expertise are.
Yeah, sure. So we opened up our own shop kind of arrogantly, almost 7 years ago, not really knowing what the hell we wanted to do. And then we eventually started deciding, hey, let's just focus on happy transactions, things that the outcomes are fun and people are excited about and generally smiling at the end of it instead of mad and kicking dirt and, having to pay legal bills for lawsuits. And we found the best way to do that was start working with entrepreneurs, people that are building stuff or doing stuff or, pursuing goals and things like that. So we started getting we opened the firm with a bunch of tax lien foreclosures. So kind of a Debbie Downer situation, but it opened our eyes up to all the varying mechanisms in real estate that you can use to invest and buy and create happy transactions. So from there, we found out about syndications and apartment buildings and met a bunch of guys that do that for a living and been holding on to a lot of their coattails. And yeah, we just try to help people close deals. We like getting creative. We like to think we're pretty easy to work with and kind of focusing on making it a fun experience, I think does make it so we get a lot of return work. So yeah, we kind of help with the entrepreneurial experience, whether it's on the real estate side, whether it's on the business, even startup to acquisition or sell side. And then we do the estate planning stuff too, because once you accumulate stuff, you got to do something with it. So that's kind of what we're doing.
Hey, Paul, question for overall business general advice. Can you talk to anybody in any state, or do you have to?
Yeah. So I'm a network guy. So anybody in this group that wants to if you go to I have a thing called dealdiscussions.com, you just set up a calendar link. Like people that are serious, I like talking to. A lot of my work, I don't ever see revenue from for 6, 12, 18 months, right? Because it's like, hey, how does this work? And then I explain it to them, and then they either go off and it floats off into the atmosphere, or they do something with it. And then when they're going to do something with it, they end up coming back. So so I can give advice kind of on what my best suggestion is. I'm only licensed in Ohio. Syndications I can do everywhere, but the general advice that I give, because I do a lot of general counsel work too, so it's just kind of advising on what potential outcomes are. I can do that with anybody, and a lot of times I just tell someone hey, this is we get on a 8-minute phone call, and I'm like, hey, this is what you should do, and you should go find this lawyer and ask them to do this for you, and then usually that gets it done, and I build a nice relationship, and they get their thing done, and I don't have to do the work.
So how do you feel about these internet sites where people say, okay, I'm going to start a business, and then they hop on the internet site and they get their contracts from that?
Yeah. So it depends so if you're going to get an LLC or something, you're like, hey, I want to start a new, gutter company, and I'm going to go on LegalZoom and go get my LLC started. That's probably going to be fine. The downside, as you guys know, and the importance of everything is just like a relationship, right? So you want to find people in a professional service realm, whether accountants or lawyers or whatever, people that you can kind of see as a partner in your business if you're really going to grow and do things. Yep. So, you're not going to get that from an online website. That's really the only downside. I think it's a lot better than doing nothing. I think it's a lot better than just sole proprietorship and, side hustling and hoping that you don't get sued. So it's definitely better than that. But I think the biggest value on using a lawyer is it'll take some shopping around to find one you really like. but that's almost as valuable as the little work product that's going to get knocked out. Because when you have a problem, or you think you might have a problem, you can save yourself a lot of stress by calling someone that you enjoy talking to, and they can be like, oh, don't worry about that dick, he's not going to do anything. Or or that gripe from City Hall isn't going to be that long of a problem. You just got to do this or that. So I think the upside is you're going to get something done, and it's better than nothing. It's better to have it in writing, even if it's a legal Zoom contract over nothing at all. But I think you're missing out on the potential relationship that you can build with a professional service provider.
I agree 100% because of the simple fact that we don't like to think it's this way, but it really does. It's your network. So a lot of people will give it a derogatory term of the good old boys club. But if you're using someone local, then you never know what relationship they've got with someone else that you're going to need to be able to lean on. So even when it comes to ordering apparel and whatnot for promotional items, I always tend to do local just for that simple fact of that networking and relationship. And you got to understand the power of the networking to know that you're making an investment. You might get it cheaper online, but going local is always going to go better.
Yeah. And that, to me, sorry, I keep talking here, but that kind of piggybacking off that, like, you don't need to be like a national superstar to make you, like, if you're the king or even the prince of your town, you can make a fortune, especially in real estate. So if you're going to do real estate in your backyard, make sure you have at least one, if not two, like, real estate lawyers that you like talking to, and you're going to get deals from those folks. You're going to get leads from those folks. If you buy them lunch and build that relationship over some time, like, you're going to be one of the go-tos, especially if you close deals. So not everybody needs to have, a bazillion TikTok followers or whatever the hell it is, be known on Facebook to make good money. If your interest is making money and, having fun with your family, like, you can do all that stuff in your backyard. Just go build relationships with local studs, so.
I think it's really important to have a lawyer that you like and that can talk to you in layman's terms. Sometimes they don't. And the best thing with Paul is you feel it off you. And I was fortunate. My sister's an attorney too, so I didn't have this. I got lots of free advice, but a lot of attorneys. Sometimes people feel like they're just trying to, like, hit you up with more hours and more bills, and they're talking in circles. I mean, it's so valuable to have somebody to talk to. And it's like a friend with, like, who actually is a lawyer. Like, you have your buddy, like, nah, they can't sue you, or they tell you. I always have the people tell me stuff. It's like, bro, you're not an attorney. You have
a lot of people like, oh, non-competes, nah, man, they don't ever come after you for those sort of things. Like, that's probably the most common misconception I hear is non-competes are garbage. I think they're garbage. There's cases where they're very good, right, in sales and stuff, but people are like, oh, I'm going to, I got a non-compete, but no one's ever going to come after me. And it's like, I mean, it's only a matter of time where you and your new boss get sued. So, but yeah, no, I think it's really important. Relationships are everything. Make sure you find a good one, someone you like answering the phone. If you're rolling your eyes because this person's returning your call, like, find a new one. So.
I personally learned so much from you on raising money, and you put posts about it, and I do it, but I see sometimes when guys talk about it and they're just messing it all up. They're just saying whatever they want, but they say it like it's the Bible.
Oh, yeah.
And they write like 3 paragraphs, like, get off Facebook.
You gotta love the Facebook police. It's either someone is either shaming someone for advertising a deal, and they're like, no, you're not allowed to do that. They think that the SEC investigators are scrolling through Facebook groups daily, or they're giving this sage advice because they've been to a conference for the weekend. So, but that's okay. Everybody's learning.
So talk to us about where, I'm kind of down with you, Paul. I mean, when it comes to is the SEC scrolling and I'm just a peon, I'm not going to probably get plucked, but we still want to understand the risk that we're taking.
Sure.
So when it comes to, let's say that I've got a deal that I've got a business I found and I need to raise $500,000. Yep. Let's start with that. What would be the proper channel to be able to reach out to my network, preferably on the viewers I have on social media, to be able to raise that $500,000?
Yeah. So there's 2 things to consider when you're Raising money. Well, I guess 3. So am I going to have to raise it from more than one person? If you are, then okay, now we got to go down this legal path of making sure I'm doing it correctly. So the first thing to think about is who do I want to market it to? Do I want to market it to strangers that I don't know very well? I want to market it all over Facebook and then, hope that some stuff trickles in. I have 5 or 10 people that I think I could pitch this to, and I hope that they're all excited about, and I could probably close the deal with those 5. Or am I hoping that, I get someone interested locally or, that knows me from the internet, and I'm going to raise money from them. And if you're going to raise money from strangers, if you're going to advertise the deal publicly to people that you don't have a pre-existing and substantive relationship with. So I kind of liken that to people that are either your bud or blood relative. Those are people that you have a pre-existing relationship with. Or do I want to raise from people that aren't accredited investors? Those are kind of your 2 things to think about. Is who do I want to raise from, accredited only, or do I want to raise from family and friends that probably aren't accredited, but I know they're going to be excited about it? And if you want to raise from friends and family that may not be accredited, then you want to go a 506B, B as in buds and blood and Beavis and Butthead, people that have relationships. They have relationships. Long-term relationships with people that know, like, and trust you for whatever reason, whether they've known you for a long time or you're at the family reunion together. Or if you want to advertise to the community, 506C, then you can do that. You can advertise on Facebook, the radio, park benches, anything, but you can only take money from accredited investors. So those are the things you got to think about.
So once you go public, you have to take it from accredited investors.
That's true. Yep. So if you have enough runway, and you can do this on a lot of business transactions, because business transactions are generally a lot longer runway than a real estate transaction. Sellers in business, they're making money. A lot of times a seller may be getting retired, so their runway can be really long. Especially if you build that relationship up. So if you build that relationship up and your runway is 90 days or more to close on that deal, let's just say 90 days. 90 days is a lifetime. You can actually raise from your 506B people, your buds and blood, and then stop that raise and then advertise the rest to
the world. What is advertising? Is that somebody who has 3,000 friends talking about it, or is it somebody who's putting
it's basically so if you're priming the market, priming is like, hey, I got this 100-unit asset in Atlanta. That's basically advertising that you have a deal. So you're getting really close. So that's probably over the line, but advertising can just be emailing, talking about it online, just anything you can imagine. So if you get on the business transaction side, I think one of the most creative things is, everybody's got at least 1 or 2 people that they think they could get at least a few bucks from. Maybe not 50K or 100K, but maybe 15, or 5, even something to get the ball rolling. And in raising money, the most important thing is momentum. So even if you got 5,000 from your brother, it doesn't need to be, you don't need to tell the other investors that it's only 5,000 of your $500,000 raise. You're just like, yeah, we got 1 investor on board. If you want to learn more, and I think there's a lot, you're not, maybe you're not explaining that you're only 1% of the way there, but it's about momentum. So I think that's a great strategy. If you have the runway to do it, is raising from your family and friends on a 506B. And then what has to happen is that money has to be in, and you have to close off that raise. And then you do a second phase of the raise to the internet, accredited investors, to whatever. But you got to have enough runway for that, because you got to get the PPM done. So that's got to be done. So you have to have your plan together. You got to get the people to cut the check for you, and then you have to be done. And then you can raise the other stuff. So
so the money has to be in an escrow account at that point.
It's got to be invested, and then that raise is done, and then you can go to strangers.
Can you tell us? A lot of people probably don't know the difference of accredited and unaccredited investors.
Yeah, so accredited investor is designated by the Securities and Exchange Commission as a person that makes a certain amount of money. So if you're a single person, if you've made $200,000 a year in the prior 2 years, and then the expectation to continue to make that money in the future, if you're a salesperson or you own a business and you've done that, and it's looking like it's going to
So you
continue.
didn't make it on crypto for
You
1
did
year.
make it on crypto. You're not an overnighter. It's got to be some sort of sustainable revenue. Then that is one way. Or you make 300,000 with a spouse or a spousal equivalent. So not everybody gets married. Maybe someone's on their, post marriage. They really love this person, but they're not going to get married because it didn't work out the first time. The SEC now sees a spousal equivalent as a spouse. So maybe not legally married, but you're, boyfriend, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, and you've lived together and you treat each other like spouses, that counts too. And if you make 300,000 amongst the two of you, then that counts as accredited investors, those two together.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And then $1 million net assets, and then that's accredited. So if you own a bunch of real estate, you can get that, a little easier than the spousal.
So the game plan is really good, is to go to your blood and buds, raise a little money, get some momentum, get it closed out, get that money in the account, and then you're going to need more money. And the people you want to go are accredited too, because they have money, and because they're going to be more sophisticated. They're not going to be asking you every day, "What's going on with my 50 grand?" Because
no, for sure.
I invest in a lot of people Paul knows and probably been on deals with. Yeah, I don't ever bug them.
No, yeah, and that's why I think anybody that's listening to this and they don't even know, like, where the hell do I even start? The most important thing on capital raising is having those relationships. No one's to be honest, accredited investors don't just invest in strangers anyway. So the only way an accredited investor is going to invest in your deal, if you don't know them, is through the credibility of somebody else. So like, if Kevin knew my brother Adam really well, and he didn't know me at all, and I was raising my own money, maybe Kevin would give me a look because he knows Adam and he knows I'm his brother, and Adam's like, Paul's not too much of a douche, I think you should invest in him. Then that's one thing. But you're not going to just post something on Facebook and immediately sometimes that happens, sure, but it's very rare that someone's going to be like, hey, Paul's posting a deal, I've never met him before, I have no idea about him, but that deal is so screaming, I'm going to invest in it. Nobody invests in that.
I love that point, Paul, because when I see these posts or people message me and it's like, "Hey, Kevin, I like your post. Do you want to invest in?"
Yeah,
I have no idea who you are. I have
your money. Yeah, right.
People who have $100,000, they can write a check and it doesn't affect their life. They're kind of smart. They're not going to just give it to you. They're going to do some due diligence. For sure, that doesn't work like that.
So anybody that's on here, make sure you're starting that, like, trying to find those people in your market or on the internet, and you can make great relationships just from Facebook, right? It's like, the next thing you should do, instead of jumping right to that with Kevin, is say, Kevin, I love your posts. Like, hey, if I'm ever out in Atlanta and you're putting on an event or whatever, or let me know when you're on an event, I hope to meet you at one of, Mark Evans' events or whatever. That's so powerful. And make sure you're liking. Like, if you look up to Kevin or Chris, make sure you're liking their shit every day, so they see your name and they know your name. And then even if you don't ever talk to them in person and you say, hey, I have something that maybe you'd be interested in, they'll give you a look because they've seen you liking their stuff over and over again, or commenting or putting your own posts and stuff like that. So there's so much power in the free stuff on social media that, you can build relationships without even ever talking to somebody.
It's like Rodney Dawson, Chris, right? I've talked to him numerous times. He's like my buddy now.
I've never spoke to him, but the dude comments on everything and he makes a point to stay in front of our faces. And it reminds me of what Tim and Fatty say about dig your well before you need it. Had a up and coming real estate guy reach out to me, said, hey, are you interested in investing? And I said, man, I've got all my money deployed in other projects right now. I said, keep me in mind on the next one. And then I said, reach out to family and friends. And then I said, the problem right now is you haven't dug the well before you got the deal. And if you'll go ahead and start making those relationships, telling people what you're doing. I heard a guy that's really big into syndications right now said he started his podcast without having his first deal. And his podcast was all about syndication on apartments. And so he said, what I did is I just leveraged other people's experience. And it really made me think, you don't even have to have your first deal. You don't have to have your first business. Show what you're doing on the computer, where you're searching for your businesses, and it starts building that credibility on your name. And then people already see you've got a little bit of track record. Then when you get ready to raise money, you've already got some credibility out there. And like you said, you and Adam have done really good, Paul, on your social media and getting your name out there. And I've seen you network the hell out of these other groups. I mean, every time I'm at Tim's, I see you. Then you pop up on a webinar with Mark Evans, and you're just like busting around. And all of a sudden, I'm thinking, man,
those are the coattails. Those are the coattails I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, Paul and Adam, man, their little attorney firm is just kicking ass. But it's because you started small.
Yeah, I love it.
Now y'all got this big TikTok going. You've dug the well already, is the whole point I'm trying to say. Now you guys can find operators. You can put your own money in. You could raise money if you want. Y'all have built that credibility, and it's just off of social media for free.
I had no idea it was such a big deal. This is great. We can do this all day. And that's another thing people should understand is everything takes too long. So like if you want to raise money, you want to raise $1 million for some once in a lifetime deal, it doesn't matter. It just takes a long time. So when I had to raise money for a deal out in Illinois with a couple of buddies of mine, and I thought I could raise some money, but I didn't think I had to on this one because some other guy was going to raise the money. And it was the worst 3 weeks of my life because I needed to raise it like $1.1 million in like I said, 2 or 3 weeks. And it was like I had to scratch every back that I've ever talked to on earth, and I got it done, but it was like the worst thing ever. And I thought, I'm never going to do that again. I'm never going to. And this is my own fault because I thought somebody else was going to do it. So that was, dumb on me. But if I would have started raising the money when we got the deal, it would have been so easy, or not so easy. It would have been a lot easier. It wouldn't have ruined my damn vacation, driven me to drink, for a week in a row. But yeah, just everything takes a long time. So anything you want to do, whatever you're imagining, it's going to take at least twice as long, whether it's finding a business you want to buy, you think you're going to find one in 30 days, it'll take you 6 months or a year. Raising money, you think, okay, I'll just go find an apartment. I'll raise the money myself. Your window is not even half as long as it needs to be to raise that money. So
I think that's wise. Yeah, that's true story.
Paul, what do you see as, I know you make some posts. I totally agree with you about for real estate. So it could be for people just kind of overpaying and some of the mistakes they make. Are you seeing that kind of newer people who just want to get into stuff?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, real estate of all industries is like, it's the only industry, right? Like you don't see gutter guys on the internet bragging about like things. Like real estate is a weird industry where it's just like people for whatever reason, and it attracts certain types of people that and it is something that you can get pretty rich pretty quick. But yeah, I mean, everyone, you go to these conferences are great because they're hype fests, you get excited about it. Maybe some, miseducation happens where it's like this stuff's going to be so easy and you can be super rich, super fast. So you get excited about it, but people all the time are overpaying for stuff.
Yeah.
They get excited. They want to be part of the club. So the only reason the only way you're part of the club is that you got to buy something, whether it's $800 a month in rent and you're paying $230,000 a door. People are doing it. So patience wins the day for almost everything. You're better off getting 2% for being a boots on the ground or a something or other part of somebody else's deal to understand this stuff than getting a bigger chunk and then failing on your very first one. Because if you fail on your very first one, you're probably never going to unring that bell because it's really hard to do. So
I totally agree with that. People want to post that 100-unit thing.
Oh, the PSA celebration. Like, hey, I got something under contract. Like, no, that is not even. That's the easiest part by far.
You might not want it at what you bought it at.
Yeah, no, you won't.
The same thing there. You know what some of the small businesses do? They talk about their gross. Yeah. Like, oh, I gross this much, and everybody. I've seen some of these gutter groups, blue collar groups, and people will talk about what they gross. I want to be like, what did you net?
Yeah.
What went to the bank?
I don't know. Maybe you lost money. Maybe you're going in a big circle.
Yeah.
Tell me you net $1 million. I'm going to get real impressed by you.
Absolutely. Yeah. The net wins the day. Gross is mostly a waste of time unless you're netting something. So
yeah.
Yeah, the internet is a place where people like to exaggerate.
So Paul, tell me about business structures, LLC, S Corp, C Corp. I know that I was buying some real estate and they were locked up in a C Corp. Started learning, getting a little bit better education about real estate and C Corp. But all of my businesses are LLCs that I operate out of. And it seems to be that most blue collar businesses are LLCs. But as you start getting into this bigger revenue space of businesses, you see more S corps and C corps.
Yeah, so a very common strategy for small to medium sized business is having it as an LLC, but doing the S corp election, and that's just a way to work around some of the payroll taxes that you otherwise would pay if you were if you weren't that S corp designation. So yeah, I mean, for everybody that's listening on here, LLC is by far the most flexible and easiest to deal with. The one of the downsides of the corporate structure is like it's pretty formal. Like if you're doing it properly to get the ultimate asset protection, you got to have meetings and directors and all that stuff, generally speaking. So LLCs are easy. I mean, LLCs you don't even necessarily have to have an operating agreement on. Because there's usually every state has its own LLC statute. So if you flub up something and there's a business divorce amongst partners, even if you don't have an operating agreement, there's typically a statute that's going to run the show for that anyway. So LLCs by far the simplest thing to do. The other kind of unsung professional service that most people don't think much about, except for April every year, is an accountant. That's a great relationship to have. Yeah. You can get very niche specific accountants in your area, whether it's restaurants, there's restaurant accountants, there's real estate accountants, that sort of thing. So go build those relationships up. Don't use fucking TurboTax. Are we allowed to swear on this thing?
Yeah.
Don't use TurboTax. Don't do your own taxes. Like I don't mess with my toilets, let alone like something that can really cause me financial
harm.
People
brag about that. I don't know what you're bragging about.
And is there anything worse on earth than doing taxes? Like there's nothing worse. So because it's depressing one way or the other, right? You're like, I either didn't make enough money or I'm giving too much money away. So it's like, you don't want to look at that. You just want to look at it. So find a good accountant, and an LLC will do everything you need it to. I suggest you get the LLC, you make sure you have an operating agreement that gets looked at by a lawyer. Pull one off the internet if you want, but get a lawyer to look at it, because one of the things that people don't often think about is, hey, what happens to my membership interest if I take a dump? Is it going to go to my spouse? Is it going to go to my partner? Is it going to go to the probate court, which nobody wants? If it goes to a probate court, you can all but say au revoir to that business, because that's going to get tied up for 6 or 12 months and the business won't be operational. And it's just going to suck. So talk to a lawyer about your operating agreement. Say, hey, can you help me make sure that this operating agreement membership interest either goes into a trust or to my other partner for some sum of money, or to my spouse until she can do something with it. Just things to think about. So
I have a couple questions in the comments. Christina is asking about, we covered this. So Christina, you'll be able to go back about 10 minutes when you see it, how to approach future investors and if they're friends and strangers. Paul went over that. Here's another person who's asking about buying a business. Hey, Paul, I found a business with great cash flow per the profit and loss statement, but the owner does not claim the income on his tax returns. I've requested all purchase orders, invoices back into the numbers. I told him I can't finance the business or get investors because of the tax returns. The seller agreed to sell or finance. Is this the best way to acquire a business, or should I lease the business to limit the risk? It's for $595,000.
Dude,
$300,000 cash flow.
Let me write that business down. Just where's that at? Yeah, dude, that's great. Seller finance is great. You can do, just do an asset purchase agreement. Now you need to verify the P&L, right? Because everybody tends to exaggerate the numbers. So you got to verify that. But if you're getting the purchase orders and you're able to kind of, he should be able to give you bank accounts, whether he's stuffing his own personal bank accounts or not. I mean, hopefully he's got a business bank account, but do an asset purchase agreement, get some goodwill, try to get that cost basis as low as you can. And that sounds like a good one.
So how do you verify a P&L?
Yeah, it's going to take a lot more digging. So, you got to get bank accounts. You're going to have to see what they're spending their money on, that sort of thing.
Yeah, going through their bank account and matching it up is one step, because you might find out in
Reconciling,
5 minutes it doesn't make any sense.
it's a nightmare reconciling, but it's where, it'll take you maybe a week or
Hire
two
somebody
run
to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, you can do that for sure. Especially if it's if it's a business bank account, you usually can break those down pretty easy, right? You can pull a report off and they'll have, they'll even break down what the expenses are, sometimes.
So something that we implemented in our company, and I see a lot of blue collar people that never do this, is we have a place where we get a signature before we start our work explaining what we've done. And it's just a contract. It's like a 2-word sentence within our CRM, our little program where they can digitally sign, that just says, we're authorizing you to perform this work stated in this, this estimate, this quote. And then when we finish, we also get a satisfactory certificate of satisfaction is what we call it. And it's just a signature, again, digital signature that's showing our sign in, our sign out. And that's so that if we ever get any complaints about work, or, hey, your guys didn't show up, but they really did, we're able to show. What kind of documentation do you see that's kind of just fundamental, basic to be a part of a service company that will help limit liability for companies?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is expectation. So like if you're in a service industry that's going to have kind of a wide range, right? I'm going to open up this wall. I'm going to see that all this stuff is wrong that I didn't know yesterday. So you want to set expectations. I think what you're doing is great. You want to have the easiest transition as possible between the quote and the ultimate purchase agreement, where you're spending money now to get the job done.
Right.
So having some sort of service contract doesn't need to be super complex, because litigious people are going to sue you anyway. So, but if you have it in writing with the expectations, with kind of whatever your industry is, what the range could be, you're going to be fine. I mean, service industry, just like everything, whether McDonald's, right? They serve billions of hamburgers. At some point, there's going to be somebody that says something's in their burger and they get sued for it. So it's a numbers game. You install millions of linear feet of gutters, you're going to get sued at some point for something. Same with, with any service industry. I do a bunch of syndications. At some point, someone's going to have their deal take a shit and I'm going to get sued because they suck. So it's just part of the thing. And I think, but having a contract that's very basic, that's a great starting point. If it goes to court and you get sued, hopefully you can dismiss the case, because it's like, hey, dummy, you signed this thing. I know you're upset because something happened, but you signed it. Pay me.
I've been sued a few times, and a couple got dismissed off the things. But you have to assume you're going to get sued at some point. Especially people, they could work for you, they could anything. They see you being successful. We all know there's that element out there. There's people who that's how they do it. I had a guy who approached another of my employees and said, "Hey, I want to pretend like like I fell off a roof and sue Kevin, but I don't actually really want to fall off the roof, and I need a witness." He went this whole thing. This guy calls me up and he says, "This guy is like literally trying to plan this out with me."
Wow.
So I call the guy up and I said, "What's going on?" And then he's like, I said, "What are you trying to plan?" And he was like, "Oh," because now he knows he's
oh, it didn't work out.
I said, "Yeah, pack it up, bro. You're done."
Jeez,
You're gone.
what a clown.
But
well,
I had a guy do something with an injury, and then he was the insurance covered it, and they went and they found him playing soccer. And he said that he, did all this damage to his ankle and he was playing soccer and collecting workers' comp. There's people who do it all the time.
Yeah. And that kind of leads back to the syndication stuff. Like a lot of people are trying to be like, hey, I don't want to spend, the $12,000 or whatever it is to syndicate. Syndications range anywhere from probably, like if you're going to use a real firm, anywhere between 10 and like $50K, like super expensive stuff. So people are like, all right, I want to get around that. I'm going to come up with some sort of clever idea. Like I'm going to get some second mortgages and, have some people sign off on that stuff. Like the SEC has thought of every clown move that people have tried to like work around this PPM stuff. So just do it. Like if the deal is too thin and you can't pay the money, then don't do the deal. Like it's just not good. It's just, people do that all the time. They're like, well, I need to be the debt needs to be at this rate. And I think if we, get it here, then I think we'll be able to, if you're trying so hard, just go on to the next one, because there's easier ones out there.
I made a mistake in 2006 and then hit with 2007 where there was a number where the deal didn't work, but I was like so in it. I was like, I'm going to push it through. It was the worst financial mistake I ever made. Like it was a big deal. Condo, when it's like the deal doesn't work, move on.
Right.
Yeah, you might lose 20, 30 grand or time or whatever. Talking to lawyers, move on. It's over.
Yeah, if you're looking like, what is that? The Hangover, where it's doing the math, in their head, like, how do I get this thing to work? Like, it's not a good deal.
No.
So and if you can't pay to get it done properly, one, you're putting your investor money at risk, which is worse,
Yeah, that's even worse.
And two, it was just not a good deal. So.
For me, it was my money, so I didn't even bring on investors. So
Wow.
It was painful.
Yeah, that sucks. Don't do that again.
No. So tell us about your the Deal Crew, your Facebook group. I'm part of it. I'm in your monthly thing as well. I love it.
Yeah, so we do. So we got this thing. So we see all sorts of things. We're lucky enough that people call. They get weird deals. They're not sure really how to structure it or which one makes the most sense. So we thought, hey, we should do some, that we try to educate people, and not that we're educating you that you actually go do your own legal work, but we feel the more tools you have in your tool belt, the easier it is to do things. I mean, every real estate kind of structure, you can pretty much transfer it to a business, right? Seller financing, subject to, you can do these things for business acquisitions too. So we thought, hey, let's try to get a group together, try to have something decent to say, as frequently as we can, and hopefully people, get something out of it. And it's an investment of money, of course, but we just like you guys, people that post your stuff, we're really dialed into the people that are willing to spend the time to show up and pay us, every month to hear what we have to say. So we talk about, we talk about commercial real estate, we talk about residential stuff, how you can take them down. And we did an asset purchase one, I think, last week, because there's a guy that's looking to do that. So, yeah.
And you can post questions in the comments, and you get a lawyer to answer you. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. We try to be resourceful. It's weird, you guys know how it is. It's weird to think people, will take your advice. I've been a lawyer for 13 years, and I'm still like, it's weird that this guy would, who's way more successful than me, will take my advice. But yeah, it's good. We like having it. We like swag. We make stupid swag. We're making more of that every day.
I got some. We're going to put the link in.
We're doing it. We're doing an event.
We'll put it in the comments or when we post this.
We're doing an event too in November down in Orlando. Yep. So if anybody wants to learn more about that,
tell us about your event.
Yeah, so it's going to be November 4th, 5th, and 6th. It's pretty much just going to be, it's a lot of it's going to be networking. So the 4th will be like a dinner deal, networking setup. The 5th will just be an all-day content thing. And then the 6th will be another kind of networking opportunity, kind of a wrap up. But yeah, so we're going to, it's going to be somewhat real estate focused, but more so on a couple other niche-y things. I got a brother-in-law that's second at Darden Restaurants down in Orlando, and he does all their corporate communication. So he's going to talk about selling a deal, the kind of the art of storytelling and things, which I think people will get kind of a unique point of view on. He does all their corporate shit all over the country. So I just think it'd be fascinating, a little different than what people are used to at these events. So yeah, it'd be cool. I think it'll be fun. We'll try to make it fun. I think it'll be a lot, and we don't want it to be big. We'll probably try to have 40 people there. So
this is your first event, Paul?
First one, man. Yeah,
I know you speak it a lot. You've been at all everyone else's events.
Yeah, they need a warm body, and I'm always around, so they get me to show up. But yeah, it'll be fun. Trying to make it kind of a unique experience. So we'll see. Putting that all
how did they find you on social media? What platforms? I know you're on TikTok, and you and your brother do a great job there.
Yeah, so we're TikTok lawyers on TikTok. Facebook. I think on PV is a stupid thing, but I don't know. It's kind of fun. We a PV.esq on these things. So if anybody ever wants to reach out, just follow me, send me a message. I'm on my phone too much. I'll probably see it pretty quickly. And yeah, man, I'm pumped for you guys putting this stuff on. This is a unique platform too, right? There's like, how many more apartment groups do we need, but this is really cool because it's like practical. Most businesses are in the very small 100K revenue to maybe 5, right? Like the great majority of things. And you can make a fortune making between 100,000 in revenue and a couple $1 million. So it's a really cool thing you guys are doing, and I learned stuff from you guys. I mean, I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm listening to you guys every day.
So here's one thing we didn't go over. I want our followers to reach out to you about is protecting what they're actually starting to make now, because as you start making some money and you get a nice lawsuit and you didn't have enough protection in place, then you could lose all of that hard work. And there's a lot of different ways to protect your assets depending on what level you're at. And that's what's so unique about it. And that's why you need to have somebody that you can reach out. So y'all go find Paul, get in his group, because you're going to have questions as you start to grow. And you're definitely going to want to make sure that you do some estate planning so that you protect your assets and you don't lose your assets.
It's coming
in a lawsuit.
You're going to get sued.
Yeah, and this isn't a fear, uncertainty, and doubt situation, but it's true. It sucks. People will sue you. And I don't sell insurance, but that is the other probably least thought about. And, you think about your insurance for your company, like when you start the company, and that's about it. Like if you don't have a really good commercial businessy insurance agent helping you and looking at your shit regularly, like you are missing out, because you want an insurance company cutting the checks. You don't want to get to a lawyer and have to pay a lawyer out of pocket. You want the insurance company to pay a lawyer. Yeah. So if you're in real estate, if you're flipping houses, make sure that you have insurance that will cover liability if somebody sues your ass.
And you have to tell insurance agents what you actually
Absolutely.
do. A lot of guys, they're like they're excavators. Nah, we don't dig over 12 inches.
Yeah.
Right. And then, when it happens, it's going to be an exclusion. You wrote that. It's a contract on your application. You're not going to get paid on that.
No, and I get a lot of flippers that call and they're like, hey, I'm getting sued. And it's like, hey, did you ask your agent? And they're using some State Farm agent or something. No offense to those people. But unless you tell them like, hey, I flip houses, I'm worried about getting sued from the new owner because there's water in the basement now, right?
Yeah.
And then you're like, what do I need to get? They're going to tell you, okay, you have, property or casualty or whatever for the asset itself, but you need liability insurance. If you get sued, you want the insurance company representing you defending that lawsuit. So
yeah,
absolutely,
let them handle it.
You don't want
case with the workers' comp with the soccer guy. My workers' comp insurance came in. They hire their own attorneys. They call me and they take care of it. I'm out of it. It's not costing me.
You answer the phone maybe every 30 days or so to get an update, but you do not want to be interviewing lawyers, paying lawyers some stupid retainer fee, having them, abuse your bank account. Like, don't do that. So get insurance.
Paul, thanks so much for coming on.
Hey guys, that was fun. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, man. See you at the next. You going to Nashville?
Yes, sir. I'll see you guys there. See
you there, man.
Crowd, staying out of trouble.
All right.
See you soon.